I remember of Last House on the Left. We were both very young, and it was trying to make a movie that, that was going to be unusual and sort of gripping. We didn't, but it was like sneaking out at night and painting graffiti on the walls, and then go home and hopefully nobody would catch you. And we were going out and shooting this movie with essentially no money, and trying to tell some kind of a story. And the story itself took such a left turn about halfway through the movie. We have these two really lovely kids, and at first you say, oh, well, they're going to die, but they don't, and so they get more and more. So as you get more and more invested, you become shocked and really distressed when they get killed. And then the rest of it is the revenge that happens on top of that. I don't think revenge is a very good motivation for characters, but that's what it was. And I think we always understood that that was the goal. That's just kids trying to make a movie. I would, if I were to do Friday the 13th again today, the thing that I would keep would be the character of Jason and treat him like a shark, which is what he has been in all of the movies that have been successful. It's strange because what that does is it gives the audience what they want. That you come to see Friday the 13th, you come to see Jason do Jason things. And you're not trying to make something different or better. It's like a friend of mine said, sometimes you want to go and get a Big Mac at McDonald's. You don't go to McDonald's and somebody says, I've got this wonderful fish thing you've got to try. No, it's something you want a Big Mac, you get a Big Mac, and then you move on with it. I would try to make the story around it as interesting as possible, but I would start with Jason as he has been. The first movie didn't have Jason in it, so it was trying to be a different kind of movie. But the movie that happened over 10 films or something like that is that the audience came to depend on Jason doing certain things. And if he does them, then the audience seems to stay happy. But if he doesn't, the audience is not happy.
But the film was successful.
Which film?
The first one.
Yes, it was very successful.
Even without Jason.
Even without Jason. But it's what it became, not what it was. Because at the time, nobody had seen what we were doing anyway. I've seen Argento and Bava, but only after I'd made Friday the 13th. I had never seen any of those films before. I think it really would have helped if I had seen them, but I hadn't seen them, and I was, especially Argento, was so smart about, he created these things that at the time I thought of them as magic tricks. You look at what's happening, you know it's not happening, but still, the magician cut that girl in half and took the different halves around. You know he didn't kill her, but it sure looks like he did, and that was kind of the delight of creating things that you knew didn't exist, but they seemed to exist. That all changed when we started using computers, and now you can make anything. But at the time when we first started, it was like you could trust the camera. Whatever is on film, that's what happened. That's what you saw. Not anymore. So the camera can't be trusted. What happens is the music will tell you what you feel about a particular scene. And, if you feel safe, you can do that. If you feel anxious, you can do that. If there's tension, you can do that. And then you have to build on it. But it's not coming up with a song or a melody. It's coming up with something that works on your subconscious. I don't think anybody consciously listens to the music when it's scored. I mean, of course, there's been some wonderful music made for movies, but when you're watching the movie itself, you don't say, "Oh, listen to those trumpets." You know, it just carries you along with the story, and that's why I like working with Harry Manfredini so much, because he's such a good musician, and he's such a good teacher, because he wound up teaching me so much about how music works. And I mean, the advice that I could give anybody like that is, I don't like it, but that's not, that's not really advice. That just you might not like how it's making you feel, so make me feel differently, or that's too busy or something. But it's always a cooperative relationship, and I think that a good director will respond to what a good composer is creating in terms of feelings, in terms of telling the story. And ultimately it's always about telling the story, and that's the key. What happened is that the contract that we had with Victor Miller expired. It wasn't supposed to, but it did. So he had a claim on it, or his lawyer, had a claim on it, and I said, that's not right. And so we went to court and we lost. And so I said, gee, that's too bad. And I think that when A24, if the series gets on its feet, I would love to be part of it a little bit, but I wouldn't be an owner of it. I own a lot of the Friday the 13th stuff that's happened in the past, but in the future it'll go to other people. Those are just the tools, and I think the big thing that changed is you can show anything you want. You can show a real heart beating, take the heart out, look at it, take a bite out of it, put it back in your chest, and go on with your day. You can do that, but that doesn't make a good story. So that the question is, in the same way that music tells you how to feel, the special effects tell you, what's happening up to a certain point, but only up to a certain point in the story. And it's not, the elevated platforms, which there are several of them, but at this point we're talking about AI, which they can do wonderful things. But, computer graphics have been doing wonderful things for many years, and it's a question of, those are bullets you can use that are in your gun, but you don't use it to solve everything. And three most important things in a movie are story, and story. And it's not the special effects. And if you have a wonderful looking movie with wonderful special effects, okay, but will the audience respond to it? You don't know, because if it works right, yeah, they will, but maybe they won't. They won't run to go see the movie just because of some certain special effect. Back in the day, yeah, because we've never seen anything like that before, but now we've seen everything twice, and I think that in its own way, it says you have to go back to the basic principles of telling a simple story and make that story engaging. I mean, if you look at Lion King, right? Lion King has a terribly simple, clear story. It's one of the best structured screenplays ever. And if it were to re-exist today using that same story, it would be wonderful, I'm sure, because the story is so clear. It wouldn't, if they animated all of it and the fur moved in a special way and. But at its core, it's about coming of age and being responsible and parental responsibilities and responsibilities to the world that you live in. That's what it's about. I mean, yes, there are lions running around, but underneath it, it has a very meaningful story. Or I certainly liked it for the first 7 hours. But no, I think I thought that was really well done. I think what happens is horror scripts are usually bad scripts. As soon as you get a story that's a good story, you stop calling it a horror film and start calling it a medical thriller, a science fiction adventure, action in space or something, So that's one of the reasons I don't jump at a really good recent horror film, because there was Terrifiers, for instance, and that was not something that moved me. I went and said, "Holy cow, you guys did great," but it was a novelty in itself, but it was very well done for what they were trying to do. I really like film criticism after the fact, after I've seen the movie. I don't want to read anything about a movie. I would like to avoid trailers if I can, because I want to be surprised by the story that they're telling. What movie critics do is that they think the most important thing is that which they write, not the movie that you see, but the writing is the most important thing in most movie criticism. I never expected to get good reviews on Friday the 13th. It wasn't made for that. It wasn't, even though we're here in Sitges. But within a year, I think, they'd be talking about a new horror film, and they would just say, well, it doesn't have the character and the wit of Friday the 13th. It started because it continued to be successful. It started to be sort of the good version. Then we got these other films that year. And I don't know that anybody ever treated it like a serious movie. It was serious financially, but it wasn't Lion King. No, I think that what had to happen was that Jason had to become an icon, and when he becomes an icon, then the people who put up the money and distribute it, they know what they're making and know what they're trying to distribute, because it's all clear. If Jason changed in every movie, or it became a woman, I was like, no, it's the dependability. I remember hearing one person say that Friday the 13th movies, just generically, there's like blue collar movies, movies for the working man, and not movies for the effete critics. But I don't regret any of that. The first cut was never 2 hours. I don't know how long it was, but it was always hard to make sure that we got to 90 minutes. That the shorter version is easier because it goes faster and you keep more attention, but stretching it out to 90 minutes is always hard. I do remember that the screening I had early on, which is almost the cut that you've seen, had no music and no sound effects. It was just to see what the movie was, and Wes Craven came, and Harry Manfredini came, and we talked about it afterwards, and Wes, who is a friend, and he said, well, it's very interesting. It's awfully slow. And then it was within a month, maybe a little bit longer, had another screening which had the music in it and had the sound effects in it, and it just worked like crazy because of that. And the movie itself didn't change. And I never had any footage. I think when we took Friday the 13th, the original cut, and gave it to the MPAA to rate it, I think I took out 14 seconds. I mean, that's all. It wasn't like I took out great big huge chunks or anything. It was a small amount. And if I had a 2-hour cut, I'd want to shoot myself. I mean, you've got to have a story that moves. Maybe, but I don't think so. I mean, I think it works fine the way it is, and that scene, the killing of Kevin Bacon, was something that we really did work out like a magic trick, because he's in bed, she went to the dangerous place, so you think he's probably okay, but we know above him, at the other end of the bunk, is a dead kid dropping blood. And we've seen the dropping blood start to come down, right? So all of our focus is over here. And when on the other side of the screen comes the arrow, and that's why it was so surprising, because you had the distraction of the other side of the screen, because you had to put special prosthetic on and do all this stuff and make it look realistic. By far the most successful and surprising scene was Jason coming out of the lake. It was a very hard scene to shoot, but I had no idea if I was going to be able to use it or not, because it's kind of from a different movie completely. But the music that leads up to that, it's the music for the end of a movie. And the sun has come out, the police are there to give you safety, and she's in this beautiful setting, and she survived, and okay. And then it was like, holy shit! And that was a product. I think the biggest product was Harry's music, because it was so lush and so pretty, and he even, when Jason comes out of the lake, he didn't wait for a beat. He did it in between beats. So it just was something that was so surprising and effective. I thought Kevin Bacon's death was surprising.